David, I want to talk about another potential strike on the horizon. Let's talk about UPS. That one is a bigger issue. We know negotiations between UPS and Teamsters seem to have hit a standstill. Well, they really have. There are only really less than 2 weeks left to avoid a strike, at which point over 300,000 workers could halt and cost the economy billions. Do we see some kind of solution there coming before that deadline?
There's always a chance. There's been negotiations for some time where the UPS and the unionized workers have agreed on many of the terms. They have, for example, agreed around air conditioning the trucks, so that because workers are really, as it gets hotter and hotter, workers really struggle in those.
Okay, as an AMZ worker around this motherfucker, I'm just saying that, we got AC, but at the same time, they don't even have AC, and they be doing like 140 stops and all that bullshit. But that's why I just be like, damn, that's why we got to get this shit right and agree on them terms, like you said. But AC to be one of them shits, that should have been long gone. What the fuck?
In those trucks. But there's some major issues still remaining, especially around pay. And I think it's really going to be an open question. There's a big threat to the economy. There's hundreds of thousands of workers who would be laid off and lose their paychecks, but also UPS would lose, potentially billions of dollars, as well as all of the customers dependent upon UPS, including the businesses that.
See, I'm glad he brought up that other term of pay, and then also that graph that they have over there showing that loss of $7 billion, because these motherfuckers want to fuck around and not give us the equal pay. But that loss, they're going to equal up to $7 billion in the businesses. You know what I'm saying?
Depend on them to ship. So this is a big threat to the economy right now. But it's also in the short run. But it's also long run. I think question of whether workers, UPS workers feel this is a question of whether they can be paid fairly for all that they did for the company.
Uh-oh. I think we've got a problem with David's.
Wait, hold on, boy. Hold on. Technical difficulty. Coming back.
Shot there.
I should be back.
David, we got you. Okay, we got you.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Go on.
It's interesting when we talk about this sort of disconnect that you mentioned before about the support for unions and the participation in unions. And I think about the Teamsters in particular, which historically has not always had the best of reputations, I think we can say, has had some management issues. So, how much do unions sort of need to look to themselves and not just externally to the rules that govern them to try to get more Americans on board?
Okay, you see when she said there, Teamsters haven't had a good reputation, and then she said how they govern themselves to try to get results. I'm thinking to myself, that's a good question, because I got to research what the fuck the Teamsters reputation is, you know what I'm saying? But also at the same time, when she said that, to reflect back on how we're doing, that's a good question. So let's see what he got to say about that, you know what I'm saying?
There's, always the way that unions organize themselves and what they do and how they present themselves is, of course, crucially important. But the larger statistics I was telling you about, that this is largely about the law, is all unions, no matter who has been their leader, are largely struggling. They're facing the same decline across pretty much every industry. So it's hard to blame the particular union. Certainly, as you mentioned, Teamsters history was not particularly good in recent years, but they have a new leadership. And so the new leader has, I think, a greater incentive to really stand up for the workers and say, hey, we might not have cut the best deal last time, and we really want to make sure that workers benefit here, just as the company has had near record profits.
David, as I look over the past couple of years and the wage gains that Americans have had, many of them have happened not because of union necessarily, but because of the workplace dynamic right now, the job market dynamic, just that there's a shortage of workers. How long and sustained do you think worker gains will be as we see the job market start to change?
Well, yeah, you mentioned, so full employment with unemployment near record lows, that really helps existing workers do better, that they're likely to have higher wages. And they have, especially in recent years. But whether that's going to continue, I think that's an open question. And that's why these sort of union questions.
You see right there, that's that type of shit right there. That's a good shit, because Basically, me as an employee, I be doing like 100 stops and shit, that bullshit. So if they do be paying niggas a base like 25, 26 an hour, I guess I will go harder and make sure the shit is right, every fucking package, every picture and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? To fight inflation and live a good life. Yeah, I'll go hard, you know what I'm saying? It makes sense. Yeah.
Are so important is right now workers have power only when they really tight labor markets, but historically they've had more power when you combine these tight labor markets with some sort of collective voice, and those two tend to lead the best results for workers.
All right, David Madlin, we will have to leave it there. Center for American Progress Senior Fellow and Senior Advisor at American Worker Project.
Okay, we're going to add this one in.
We have new details tonight ahead of a looming UPS worker strike. The head of the Teamsters Union has asked the White House not to intervene if UPS workers go on a strike next month. And talks between UPS and the union, which represents more than 340,000 employees, have been stalled for more than a week with the July 31st deadline approaching. Now, if a strike does happen, it would be the first since a 15-day walkout crippled the company back in 1997. A sticking point in the talks is wage increases for part-time workers.
Well, yeah, at the end of that, what the fuck is Joe Biden about to do? Send the Secret Service or the CIA to come and set an airstrike on UPS and Amazon? Like, what type of shit is that? Like, are they going to pick up some packages for us and deliver them? Fuck. From the Joe Biden White House? Fuck out of here. Alright, leave them comments, like, subscribe. Let me know how y'all feel about that Amazon strike. We're going hard for that for the next couple days. Alright.